So, Ben, big announcement yesterday from LSAC. I noticed the internet was totally blowing up about it. I don't think there's a whole lot of news there, but you want to take us through the big bullet points?
Yeah. So item number one, they released the dates all the way through June 2022, which is great. So people can now know when the test will be administered. Uh, the test is going to be online indefinitely, as far as we can tell.
Yeah, that matches what we predicted. I mean, they're acknowledging that they might also offer in-person tests at some of these administrations,
Yep.
but they're saying that everybody has basically said, yes, we like it better online, so we're going to continue to offer it online, which, I mean, no shit, it's just better online.
Yeah, I was thinking about this actually when this came out, and I was like, there has to have been like an internal argument going on, right? You had the let's move slowly and cautiously group, and then you had the people who are like, what are we doing? Let's just go online. We can drop the whole, you know, coordinating location, space, and all that garbage that was taking place
Well, it's
before.
it's just like us going online with our LSAT classes fully, right? I mean, we
Mhm.
for years thought about, oh, should we start doing like a live online hybrid thing, or should we create like live classes in Zoom? And we never, like, the inertia just never gotten broken on the live
Yeah.
in-person classes. COVID just changed everything, and we were forced to make a big move. Once we made that big move, we realized, oh shit, it's actually more effective to teach LSAT classes live online than it is to teach LSAT classes live in person, which
Yep.
in retrospect is a gigantic no shit. It's
Yeah.
obviously better. It's obviously more efficient. We're all like adult, modern, professional people
Yep.
who can be responsible for their own, selves. It's not like kindergartners. I can see why you need kindergartners in a live classroom, right?
Yep.
Or even junior high kids.
Hmm.
But at a certain point, law school is for serious folks. And there's no reason why we can't teach serious folks LSAT in an online environment. It's more efficient in 1,000 different ways. Essentially, what they're doing is they're keeping the flex, except for they're dropping flex from the name.
Yep.
They're just calling it the LSAT now.
Yep.
They are calling it the LSAT Flex up until whatever, some date later this year. Then they're calling it the LSAT again.
Oh, I guess when they bring back the experimental section, which
Right.
is
So
what they're
talk
going to
about that.
do.
What's that going to
Yes.
be?
Okay. So before COVID, the LSAT was in person. It was 5 sections. You had the 4 official sections, which included 2 logical reasoning sections. And then you had an experimental section, which was any one of the 3. You had no idea which section was the experimental section. They just did that to test questions before they were officially put into a test. And that's how they made sure that the questions are valid. Well, they haven't been
Yes.
doing that since COVID. And so they haven't had a chance to generate new questions. I mean, I'm sure they've been creating questions, but they can't test them for validity, right?
Right.
So they're bringing back the experimental section, which actually paves the way for them to have the online test become permanent, right? Because by bringing that back, now they can test questions and they can continue to generate new ones.
Right.
Um,
And continue to release practice tests, which they haven't done now for a long stretch.
exactly. Um, Unlike before, so before it was 5 sections, you had the 4 from the official test and then the 1 experimental section wherever that showed up. Now they're going to have only 4 sections. They're going to have the 3 like they do with the flex, the logic games, the reading comp, and the logical reasoning. And then they're going to throw in an experimental section somewhere in there. It can be any of the 3. You'll know, obviously, that if you got 2 logical reasoning sections or 2 games, then one of those must have been the experimental, but you won't know which one until you talk to others. And even then, I don't know how easy it will be to figure out in the new online environment. But regardless, you just treat them all as official sections. The break will be brought back. The break before was between the third and fourth sections for 15 minutes. Now they're going to bring it back between the second and third section, which makes sense. That's just halfway through the 4-section test. I'm guessing it will probably be something like 10 minutes, or
Yeah,
maybe
they're calling
they'll
it a
reduce it to.
short break. I don't think they've told us exactly how long it is. Not that it really matters how long it is. Um, they also did say that if you leave your desk on the break, then you have to redo the security check when you come back,
Hmm.
which as we've discussed before, might involve you like picking up your iMac, and to show the camera
Oh
around
yeah,
the
yeah,
room or something like that. But they are going to have you, that's the security measure to make sure that you don't have somebody in the room or
yeah.
somebody feeding you the answers somehow. Um, the the one. So, is there any other news from this? I mean, not really. Oh, you know what? Matt Dumont pointed out that he thinks there were only 8 tests in the cycle, not
Hmm.
9. He was
Oh,
counting them up, and they do the
oh yeah,
weird May 31st start and stop.
yep.
So they might have changed slightly the number of tests per cycle, but it's not like they ever guaranteed 9 tests per cycle. What we only had 9 tests per cycle once or twice max, maybe once, I think, before COVID.
Yeah.
Right. So this is what they've been tweaking that all the way along. So, and my response was like, well, even if they did reduce the number of tests by 1, surely it's better for the test taker to have 8 chances at it online than 9 chances in person, because the in-person administration was a disaster, and the online administration, you have all kinds of flexibility. I mean,
Hmm.
the in-person, it was like on one day,
Yeah.
but the flex, each one is like a whole week.
Yep.
So now it's like, oh, your buddy's getting married. Okay, yeah, but you can still take the LSAT that week.
Yeah. You don't. It's not like that day is just gone.
Right.
Yeah.
So, um, seems like good news all around. I'm glad they're not just, like hurrying to go back to the in-person thing. It does
Yep.
certainly seem like the online thing is here to stay. The one bit of news that they never mentioned it even when they created the flex, and nobody in the internet or in the LSAT world seemed to really comment on it. We did,
Hmm.
but nobody else really commented on it. They've changed the balance of the test semi-permanently. I mean, it
Yep.
was forever. Logical reasoning was half the test. There were 2 scored sections of LR. Games was 1/4 of the test.
Yep.
Reading comp was 1/4 of the test. So
Yeah.
logical reasoning was by far the most important part of the test. Those other 2
Yeah.
sections were important, but LR was literally half the test.
Yep.
When the flex came around, the way they did it was they just dropped the experimental section, which makes sense, but they also dropped I mean, if they're going for a shorter test to be able to make the flex, dropping the experimental temporarily made sense. But they also just dropped one of the sections of LR.
I really don't understand that. What's the need to make an online test shorter than the
I
in-person
thought
test?
our hypothesis at the time, and I still haven't heard any better explanation, is just
Okay.
the cheating thing. They didn't want to have a break. They didn't want to have people getting up and leaving and coming back. Now they've got people getting up and leaving and coming back.
Yeah,
Um,
they've reinstated the break. So if that was their concern, you're gonna have it. Why not have a third section?
they have subtly, and it seems to me, in violation of the lawsuit that they settled about getting rid of the logic
Oh
games.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, before COVID, the big news was like, hey, in 4 years, we have to eliminate the logic games because some blind guy sued us and said that the
Yep.
logic games were unfair to blind people, which
I'm sure they're just hoping that all goes away, right? It's the classic COVID
they're going to
excuse.
forget about it. Yeah.
If anything
Oh, it's
gets
COVID.
delayed that I buy now, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, it's delayed due to COVID. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
What does COVID
totally.
have anything to do with this? But they're
Yeah.
just using that excuse to probably push that can down the road.
What? Refrigerator repair? Oh, yeah, no, we can't make it out for 2 weeks to look at that because, COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, huh? What? Right.